Welcome, everyone, to our Wednesday morning gathering. I'm so glad you're all here to share this meditation together. Meditation gathers energy and strength when we meditate together. This week, we have Robert Perry, who will lead us in meditation. And then we'll have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we'll open it up for your sharing, questions, and comments, and we'll end at 10:45. Over to you, Robert.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Dan. It's really nice to be here again. Feels like coming back home. I'm going to lead us in a meditation that is a kind of a collage of meditation instructions from the workbook in the lessons in the 40s. One thing that I say a lot, and some of you I'm sure have heard me say this, is that it's not well known that the course not only teaches meditation, but has detailed instructions about how to meditate within its method, actually methods of meditation. The instructions first appear in lesson 41 in the workbook, and then throughout the 40s from there, there's a heavy emphasis on meditation. It comes back in lesson 44, 45, 47, and 49. And while there are, in the end, several broad kinds of meditation in the workbook, uh, the the lessons in the 40s teach a particular kind. And it's one that I think is very effective. And I want to explain a bit about it before we actually do it. So let me share my screen here because I think it's best to take you through it visually. Okay, so here's a diagram I did quite a while ago. And it's called View of the Mind Assumed in Workbook Meditation. The idea is you can think of your mind like this circle, and the point of your attention I have there at the top of the circle. And generally, our attention is directed outward. You see these arrows here at the world. Okay, so that's how we live, right? Our attention is out on the external world. What we do in this style of meditation is we withdraw our attention from the outside world, and then we send it, in the language of these lessons, down and inward. Okay, we try to sink down and inward towards the very center of our minds. You can almost imagine your mind, which is, I think, our picture of the mind post Freud, as having a surface and having depths. And so we're sinking down from the surface to those depths, to the very center of our being. And the main language in these lessons is we're sinking toward God. There's other language. We're trying to find our real thoughts in lesson 45. Later lessons talk about us trying to sink down and make contact with our true self, the Christ. But in the language of the 40s, those lessons, we're trying to mainly sink down towards God. Now, the idea is that as we do that, we're sinking through a dense cloud of insane thoughts. Okay. And that very cloud is what's been projected outward and appears as the world we see. So the clouds out there are not so different from the clouds in here. But as we sink through this dense cloud of insane thoughts, which block our awareness of God shining at the center of our being, our thoughts are bound to, I think we all know, get caught up in the clouds. So rather than sinking straight to the presence of God within us, we start surfing the clouds. And the notion is we're meant to draw our attention back, whenever it goes off, and continue sinking, excuse me, down and inward. So it's a very simple concept. We withdraw our attention from the world, we send it down to the depths of our mind, to the center of our being where God abides. But along the way, we have to pass through this dense cloud of insane thoughts, which will inevitably at times draw our attention away. And then we have to pull it back and return to that basic motion of sinking down and inward. So that is my explanation. Didn't actually take more than 5 minutes. I feel as if I'm hoping that everyone is clear enough on that. Um, it's probably not in the spirit of these Wednesday meditation gatherings to have discussion about instructions before we meditate. So maybe what I'll do is just carry on with the meditation itself. Okay, so let's see here. Now, what I would like to do in this meditation, it assumes that we have a central thought that while we're not repeating continually, we can call upon at need whenever we feel like it, whenever we need to draw our minds back. And my favorite thought for doing that is from Lesson 109, I Rest in God. So, what I'd like to do is take you through these instructions as a way of beginning our meditation using that thought, I rest in God. It's short, it's evocative, and it speaks of our goal of trying to find that place at the quiet center of our mind where God abides, and then just resting in that place with God. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Ask you to close your eyes, get comfortable. You might want to take a couple of deep breaths to relax your body. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's idea very slowly. I rest in God. I rest in God. Then make no effort to think of anything at all. Try instead to get a sense of turning inward, past all the idle thoughts of the world. The truth is hidden deep within, under a heavy cloud of insane thoughts, dense and obscuring, yet representing all you see. Try to sink down and inward, away from the world and all the foolish thoughts of the world. You are trying to reach past all these things. You are trying to leave appearances and approach reality. Try to sink into your mind, letting go every kind of interference and intrusion by quietly sinking past them. Your mind cannot be stopped in this unless you choose to stop it. It is merely taking its natural course. Try to enter very deeply into your own self, keeping your mind clear of any thoughts that might distract your attention. Try to observe your passing thoughts without involvement and quietly slip past them. From time to time, you may repeat the idea if you find it helpful. I rest in God. But most of all, try to sink down and inward. If resistance rises in any form, pause long enough to repeat today's idea. I rest in God. What is needful is a sense of the importance of what you are doing, its inestimable value to you, and an awareness that you are attempting something very holy. Continue to focus on sinking down and inward with that sense that you are attempting something very holy, drawing your mind back whenever it wanders off into the clouds, and repeating the idea, I rest in God, as needed. All right, I'll leave you in the silence now.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have approximately 19 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand or use the reactions button at the bottom of your screen, and I'll take you off mute. And if you'd like to ask Robert a question or comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Linda, you have to take yourself off of mute.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you, Robert. That was wonderful. I don't know if anybody else had this today, but I was woken by the moon, and I was able to jump straight out of bed, pull my blinds, get dressed in the moonlight, and go out. The moon drew me, the hugeness, the brightness, and I walked into the next village. And then it went behind some clouds, and I'm thinking, yes, the clouds are the darkness. So I turned round, and there was the sun coming up, and the power of the sun was God. And God was shining its light on the moon. The moon wouldn't be a light without the sun. And there was my light. I was that light. The sun was absolutely amazing. I'm absolutely enthralled still. That's my light. That's everybody's light. That is the life, the love of God. And it was your picture where we came to the center, and that was what the sun looked like to me this morning. I'm absolutely, thank you for that picture, because that is exactly what it was like. I just wanted to share it. So if the moon's up tomorrow, I'll be out again tomorrow. But yeah, I just needed to share that. We are that light. It's all within us. That's what I wanted to share. I finished.
Thank you.
Kirsty, would you like to say something?
Thanks, Dan. Sorry, I can't top that from Linda. Thank you for that, Linda. That was absolutely beautiful. It really was. I was not woken up by the moon this morning, I have to say. What I wanted to ask Robert was, I haven't got the book in front of me, but I do know Lesson 109, and where it says make no effort to think about anything, bring your thoughts in. To me, my personal experience is that it doesn't work like that for me. I don't have to make an effort to think of anything. I have to make an effort to not. It doesn't feel like any kind of, if I'm sitting there in meditation and I find that my mind is on something else, and it does not feel any effort whatsoever for me to hang around in those grey clouds. The effort for me is in trying to find my way out of the grey clouds. I'm just wondering if you had any comment. I mean, obviously I'm not challenging Jesus's word, because I trust that it is Jesus's word completely, but I'm just wondering if you had anything to say about that word effort.
Well, I think the Course fully recognizes that that what you describe is exactly how we experience it. And there is a lot of instruction in the workbook about dealing with wandering thoughts. There are a lot of specific techniques given us to pull our mind back from wandering. I think my favorite one is where we have a wandering thought and we say, this thought I do not want, I choose instead, and then we repeat our idea for the day. Like today it would have been, I choose instead, I rest in God. So there's a recognition that our minds get drawn off into wandering thoughts In lesson 74, there's a really interesting instruction that says that you shouldn't allow your mind to go off into drowsiness and meditation. You should instead draw your mind back as often as you need to, even if you don't experience the peace you seek. So there's a whole focus on training your mind to come back to focus, come back to focus. That's the main emphasis in these instructions. The comment that you mentioned about make no effort, which I think is actually from lesson 41, I like that language, because it's almost like it's relaxing language. Make no effort to think of anything. It's telling my mind to just relax into the silence, but that comment should be set within the larger context of all these instructions, basically about mind training your mind to come back to focus as often as you need to.
Thank you, Robert. So really what you're saying is, even though it doesn't feel like effort, even though it's still relaxing language, and that's the kind of Jesus' psychology behind it.
Yeah, I think so.
That was lovely. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
Catherine, would you like to take yourself off of mute?
Hi, Robert. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm struck in the course that we have these two sets of instructions that sort of send my mind in slightly different directions. So one is to go within, past the clouds, through the clouds. And then I rest in God takes me in slightly, which I actually prefer, sort of, instead of going within, lets me feel held within something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'd just be interested to have you speak to that a bit.
Yeah, I think the sort of spatial imagery itself is flexible, because we're not talking about space. We're not going anywhere in space. There's another lesson, actually two lessons, 69 and 70, where you're going forward towards your true mind, which to me feels like a strange way to think about it, right? And there you're going through the clouds and you're feeling them on your face and forehead and eyelids, but you're going ahead into your true mind. So I think the spatial orientations here are symbolic of something that's non-spatial. And I think we should just find the things that work for us. For a long time, the sense of going down inward was the main thing that worked for me. Now it's not the main thing that works for me at this point in my life. But for myself, I tend to combine the resting in God with sinking down and inward. It feels to me like in both involve going to this place of pure rest. So I see those two things as kind of almost two sides of the same thing. But I don't think it's that important how we are imagining this in terms of space, because like I say, I think that's just a symbol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Terry?
Terry.
Thanks, Dan. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
It was a lovely image that you drew. I really enjoyed it. And it brought to mind the teaching from the Cloud of Unknowing. And, the phrase that, today I rest in God, as the dart that pierces through the cloud. And I think if we are going to go into the silence, which indeed is our core practice, then we need something that's going to steer us through that cloud. And I think, whether you use a mantra or whether you use a course lesson like we did today, it becomes like a radar beep that guides us home. And, that kind of works for me. And I like that kind of image that you presented of what is out there is indeed a projection of what's in here. And, if we don't go within, we go without. There's all of these phrases, isn't there? And we are becoming like inner space astronauts. And they reckon that if human cell through a microscope, it's just like looking at the galaxy. You know, so I think there's all kinds of comparisons. And, you know, just one more thing, Robert, if you don't mind, please. Last night we had a bit of a discussion with Miranda McPherson, and it was very interesting about, you know, my kind of question was, do you ever get to a point with the teachings and our own individual awakenings where we really, really embody the sense that I'm not a body, I'm free. Therefore, we are beyond the fear of the vaccine and the virus and all the rest of it, and we can just walk freely in the world. You know, do we ever get to that point? And I think paradoxically, it's okay to discuss those things, but when we meditate, it's okay not to know. It's okay to let it all go. Conjecture, theorizing, all of that, and learn to trust and surrender. And I think when we do, paradoxically, the answers reveal themselves to us without us trying to kind of prize it out. And there's a line from a Jackson Browne song, you know, let creation reveal a secret by and by. You know, I think we unfold in accordance with our own individual journeys, and we don't have to force anything. We can just rest in God, as you so brilliantly described this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just say a couple things about what you said. First of all, I think we've before talked about the cloud of unknowing. I'm a big fan of that treatise. I feel like there's a spirit in its approach to, you know, what we call meditation that is in many ways quite similar to the Course. So, you know, I read that many years ago and still have certain phrases like the dart of longing love and to come to God with, I think, a naked intent. So yeah, I do think that's a great Western, you know, meditation book. In terms of, do we ever get to that point? I feel like one of the things I think can derail us is these thoughts of, I should be there, why am I not there? And those can not only be expressions of a kind of beating ourselves up, but they can also, there's a lot in spiritual circles, there's a lot of spiritual pride of claiming to be there, which I think is a massive derailment for our paths. My understanding of how the Course wants us to think is basically like every day to shoot for it all. Like, wake up, set your goal for the day, and you're going for it that day. And then let your actual progress take care of itself. Do the work, you know, set the goal, go after the goal, and let how far along you actually are just unfold. And don't have an ego identification with you know, how advanced or not advanced you are. Yeah, good to see you.
Anybody have a question or a comment? John.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Robert. Amazing how Jesus always gives us when we ask. I found the fact that you made this around lesson 109 really incredible, because for a couple of reasons. When Annie and I found this place where we're living in, it was on pure guidance, pure intuition, feeling. And when we got to it, the name of the village is Restinga. So I made a decision that Restinga meant rest in God, and then the A on the end is alone. Alone. So that was a lovely thought, and it is a magical experience. But the other thing was, I'm very committed to this work of transforming special relationships, and I'm very comfortable about having done that with all my 6 children, with Annie, that they are true holy relationships where I'm not disturbed by what's going on in their lives and blah, 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 blah. And I'm very honest and say my special relationship that I know that Jesus has given me, because Jesus says, I will give you, that you don't have to give them up, give them to me and I'll help you transform them. And the relationship I have, which disturbs my peace, and I can already see Terry knowing what I'm going to say, is the game of football, what you'd call soccer in the States. And last night, we watched a game and I had my peace disturbed. I really had my peace disturbed.
Isn't that the whole experience?
Well, yeah, it is, but it didn't feel good, you see. But anyway, I made a decision after listening to your lovely meditation. We play again Saturday. We are what is commonly known as in the mire, as the world would see it. The whole, the terrible projections that are going on to the coach are really sad. I find it very sad. But anyway, I am committing in front of you witnesses on Saturday. I'm going to spend the whole 90 minutes sitting, watching, and just silently saying, I rest in God. I rest in God. I rest in God. And I'm going to see what happens, because I believe it works. So thank you for a great reminder.
That's great. You know, one thing that you can even do on top of that is you can pause the TV like every 10, 15 minutes and take, 20, 30 seconds to rest in God.
Yeah.
That's a great practice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And you end up enjoying the stuff in between even more.
Oh, I agree. We have done odd sort of different exercises around it, but because I know I almost feel it's my biggest special relationship. It's been a big part of my physical life. I've been involved with the club, and it has such an ability. I give it such an ability to disturb my peace. So I really, and I did ask. I said, I need some help. I need some help, and I rest in God is the help I'm going to use. So
all right, and you're in the right village to do it.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Thank you.
One thing I would just offer, just to add on here, is I wouldn't see the course's language about that particular issue being special relationships, because I see those between people in the course. I would see the course's language being idols.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we all wish you the best.
Thank you. I'll report back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple comments in the chat. One, thank you so much, Linda, for sharing that. You are a delight. And Robert, the picture that you led us into on the meditation was so helpful. The second one says, really loving all that is being shared. We have time for one more question or comment. Anybody? Dennis. Oh, Roland, you're on mute.
For me, the part of the course which that says, into his presence I will enter now. I've been meditating since the 70s, and I found at times all sorts of thoughts come in. The best times I found to do it was when the sun rises and when the sun sets. There's a period of quiet then. During one part of my meditation, a couple of times I went before the being of light, and I asked the question. I said, where have you been all my life? I've been looking for you. And the answer back was, I have been here all the time. Where have you been?
Wow. It sounds like you felt like that was a genuine encounter with the light.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
1,000 suns.
Yeah. So they say. Yeah. Thank you for that. Great answer. I am a real student of near-death experiences, and lots of times people will have an encounter with the light 1,000 suns, and the light will speak. And the answers and the things said are so direct and so intelligent. And what you just said reminds me very much of that same quality.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, we've come to the end of the meditation. Please
Teresa's got her hand
walk
up.
off mute and let's show our appreciation.
So I just wanted to quickly say, Robert, it didn't come into my mind until today now that you started us off when we first started, and you're doing the last one of this year.
Oh,
So
is this the last one?
leading the last one. So, you know, my heart is so full of gratitude, and I think for all of us. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just really great. I'm really grateful for being part of this, you know, even going back to the start.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody take themselves off mute.
Thank you, Robert. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. That was wonderful. Teresa. Thank you, Robert. Wonderful, wonderful.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Oh, yes.
And
Happy
to
New
you,
Year,
Mel.
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
It's all in the